happiness curve has flipped. There is now scientific proof that young people are way more miserable than they used to be. And it's probably only going to get worse. Let's get into it. In the United States and pretty much everywhere else, age 50 to 53 was about the most unhappy you could expect to be in your life, hitting about a 6.3 out of 10 on the happiness scale. Whereas when you were a kid at around age 18, you'd have about a 6.8. Then at age 80, you'd have the most happiest times in your life at around a 7. Now, there are a lot of theories surrounding this. A lot of people think that the unhappiness peaked when you hit 46 historically, because that's when you had the highest mix of responsibilities. That's when your job demands the most of you because you're probably at the peak of your career responsibility-wise. You probably had some teenaged kids, and you probably had a lot of bills you were responsible for. But when you control for all of these factors, it was found that it didn't really have that much an effect on your happiness. So the jury's out on why people actually do peak in their unhappiness in their 40s to 50s. We have just chalked it up to internal mental stuff that's really hard to measure. And of course, young people being happier than 46-year-olds didn't really need much explanation. You were just hitting adulthood, you were going off to college, you were having fun on your own for the first time. Did that really need explaining for why young people were so much happier than 46-year-olds? And that's what makes the new data so interesting. Young people are actually the most unhappy age group now, even more unhappier than the 46-year-olds that we were just talking about. This has caused the unhappiness curve to look more like a ski slope than a U-bend. But don't get your hopes up. It's only a ski slope because it is taking into account the already older millennials. There's no reason to believe Gen Z's unhappiness won't keep increasing. Gen Z's starting out sad, but there's no reason to believe they won't get even sadder. For Gen Z, instead of a U-bend, we might start looking at more of a roller coaster type situation. The article goes on to show that it really has no idea why it's happening. First, it tries to say that maybe it's the smartphones, but data shows that smartphone use does not really correlate with increased unhappiness. Another theory is unemployment, but unemployment doesn't seem to have much of an effect in America, although it might in other countries. Instead, I have my own theories for why young people are so particularly unhappy these days. I think it has to do with two scientifically backed data points, those being housing and dating. Housing and dating are the two factors which are completely and totally nuked for today's younger generation. And it just wasn't the case for the millennials and everyone else older than them. Adults are having way less sex than they ever were beforehand. See, dating apps have absolutely cratered the sex numbers. People are barely having sex anymore. They're barely in happy relationships anymore. The younger generation isn't socializing anymore. They're not partying. They're not drinking. They're not meeting people. They have lesser friends. Everything has been made worse by not going outside. And you want to know something? It's hard to get laid when you're forced to live at home because rent prices are out of control in all of the cities that young people want to live in. New York City, insane. San Francisco, insane. Boston, insane. All of these cities that the young people are flocking to are just ridiculously out of this world expensive. When my parents first got married and had me, they bought a starter home. And a starter home was this idea that you could buy a nice little, noble and quaint house before you got well into your career, and then you would upgrade to a bigger house. No one is doing that anymore. There's not enough housing supply to do something like that. It's just simply completely and totally out of the question. Do you think homes are cheap enough to buy starter homes anymore? And the politicians in control in these cities refuse to build more housing. Nowadays, you're lucky to buy any house because a starter home in the actual area you want to live is probably like 1.3 million or something else ridiculous. So of course, young people feel like total shit. For a lot of them, they didn't even get to celebrate their high school or college graduations because COVID stole it from them. Then after that, you introduce them into a dating market that's controlled and gamified by apps on their phone. It's completely ridiculous. And they can't even start building wealth because for most Americans, that comes through housing, and there's no houses to buy. So until these two areas get fixed, I genuinely can't see anything getting any better.